Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ninja Chickens podcast. My name is Maria, and this is a podcast about all things fibery related, spinning, knitting, natural dyeing, anything to do with yarn and wool. There's some family shenanigans thrown in there too, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for coming out to join me. If you are a new viewer, I hope you enjoy this. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. It's always so fun to record for you and chat with you about the things that I've been doing, and I hope you enjoy this episode. There will be knitting related things, a bunch of announcements. I will have a tea recipe for you. I know that when I did my podcast anniversary, a bunch of people said, "Where are all the teas?" And it's been a while since I've been inspired to make one. So I did make one for you because I was inspired this past couple of weeks, and it's really tasty. So stay tuned for that. You can find me on social media as on Instagram as ninja.chickens. That's where I'm most active. I'm also on Ravelry and have a Ravelry group, and both of those you can find me as Ninja Chickens and the Ninja Chickens Ravelry group. And we've got lots of stuff going on in the Ravelry group, so go on and check it out. There's almost 1,000 people in the group, which is amazing, and thank you so much. I love it that there's so many people there taking part in the knit-alongs and the chatter and all of that. So let's see, I'm coming to you from inside my house today. Sometimes I'll podcast outside, but it has been cold enough that I couldn't get the doors to my car open yesterday because they were frozen shut. So I decided to podcast inside. Hopefully I'll be able to get outside again soon because I know you guys enjoy seeing the yard, and it's always nice to be out there to podcast. But I'm coming to you from my house in Asheville, North Carolina, and we have a funky house, as you can tell from the walls. We live in a funky round house with plants on the roof, my husband and my 2 kids, and lots of animals. So welcome. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about was the trip to Florida. We went over New Year's to take the old new camper to Florida, just to give it a good test run of a longer trip, see how it felt to be in the camper with the 4 of us, and RV, I guess it's more of an RV than a camper, and visit friends. We went down to visit Mars of the Hey Brown Berry podcast and had an amazing time. It was one of those times where you can be in someone else's house yet feel completely relaxed. And I hope that they felt the same way, because it really was just, we just meshed. We just got along well. We played games, family games almost each night. We had fabulous meals together. Her 2 girls are the same age as my daughter, and so they were always playing together. It was a really nice visit. The weather was cold, a lot colder than we were expecting it to be for Florida, but we were still able to get lots done. One thing that I thought was really cool was that we went to a turtle sanctuary where they were helping to rehabilitate turtles that had been injured. And each turtle had its own tank and where they were, and it would say the name of the turtle, where it was found, how it was injured, or if it had a illness and how it was being treated sometimes. And on a couple of them, it was really cool because it said specifically this is the injury, and that it was being treated with honey, which I thought was so cool because honey is one of my go-tos for wounds and burns and skin issues. And it's something that actually some burn centers now and hospitals are using because it's so good for helping with cell regeneration, skin cell regeneration, and cleaning out wounds. And yeah, it's a really, really nice topical treatment. So that was really cool to see that it was being used. Another thing that we did that we really enjoyed was after, and I told you guys about this in the last episode, that we were going to head to the Kennedy Space Center. It was really amazing. It was cold that day, so it was hard to walk, cold and windy. It was hard to be walking outside between so many of the buildings, so we'd run to the next building and hang out in there for a long time, but there was always so much to see. It was almost like Disney about space. And it was also really neat seeing and standing next to some of these space shuttles and rockets that I've only ever seen on television, and they look kind of small, and then actually being right next to them and seeing how massive they truly were, and everything that goes into them. We had hoped to see the launch of the Falcon 9, which is a somewhat newer rocket but the launch was pushed off for a couple of days because of weather. We did get to see it on TV, and that was really cool. We came home, and the next day it was launched, I think on Sunday night. And this launch was to send some top secret payload out into space. Somebody knows what it was, but the public doesn't know what it is. Everybody's speculating that it's some kind of spy satellite. But it's just this straight thing that looks like a pencil and has these things that fold up on it. And when it comes back into space or into the atmosphere to land, those things fold down and it lands on it. And they're like 3 or 4 little tiny things. I just can't imagine how it lands so perfectly straight and then stands on it. It was amazing to see it re-land. It wasn't like a space shuttle that flies in like a plane. It just lands on these little points. So that was really cool. And another thing that I found amazing as we watched it is the Falcon 9 took off, flew through the atmosphere at like 5,500 kilometers per hour, super fast, went out into space, released the payload, and then came back and landed in 8 minutes. 8 minutes. It was amazing. I know that this stuff is going on, but I just haven't kept up with it. And to remember what it was like when the space shuttles launched and, when I was a kid, and then see these happen so quickly, it's just astounding. I mean, I'm pretty positive we're going to be on Mars and starting colonies before, in my kid's lifetime, at least, if not mine. So the next launch that they were waiting after this Falcon 9 is the Falcon Heavy, so these they're not NASA rockets. They're made by the SpaceX company, which is a company of Elon Musk, who's this brilliant billionaire guy who has these amazing companies that have to do with space travel or solar energy. And it's kind of fun to follow what he comes up with because it seems like it's so much new technology that's going on with his businesses, with his companies. But anyway, the Falcon Heavy is 3 Falcon 9s that's carrying a payload. It's supposed to be the most powerful rocket that's going to be ever sent into space or launched. It has not ever had a launch yet, and its inaugural launch is going to be coming up, hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks. So it will have 27 engines from these 3 Falcon 9s. And in the inaugural launch, usually a rocket will carry some kind of a payload just to make sure that it will carry something into space to test it out. And they don't usually send something that's precious because they don't want to lose it in the inaugural launch. So they're not going to send some kind of fancy satellite or something that costs a lot of money. I've heard sometimes they even just send concrete that weighs about the same amount as a satellite would. Well, Elon Musk doesn't tend to do things in a boring way. So he's decided that instead of sending just something, he's going to send one of his cars because he's also the owner of the Tesla company. So he's sending a red Tesla Roadster that's going to be playing, and he wants to send it into orbit around Mars because that's like one of his, getting to Mars and colonizing Mars is one of the things he wants to do. So he's sending a red Tesla Roadster, an expensive car, playing Space Oddity by David Bowie on repeat. And he's going to put it in orbit around Mars. I just think that's hysterical. I think that's awesome and hysterical. There's going to be a red Roadster in orbit around Mars. So anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. And hopefully the launch is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. So if you Google Falcon Heavy launch, you should find a place where you can watch it live if you're interested. So that was part of the trip. The RV part, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Leaf and I are probably the most optimistic about the RV travel. I think Kaya would have preferred something with more space. She likes having her space, having her quiet time. And I think Toby would have preferred something that felt less delicate. If that makes any sense. When we were driving it, it was loud. You could hear the little, metal pieces crashing around. You could hear everything moving and you could feel it. It got windy in Florida, and there were times when we had to go about 35 miles an hour in a 60, 65 because if the wind blew, we would start going to the side. In fact, we always knew when a big truck was coming up beside us before we could even see it, because we could feel the air pushing us to the side. The air that they were displacing as they were driving next to us pushed us to the side a little bit, just a few feet, but enough to feel it. And then as they passed us, we would get pulled in behind. It was a little scary at times. So Toby is, sorry, I'm going to grab her up here so she'll stop meowing in the background. Toby is interested in going to an RV show so he can look at what other things are out there. I'm encouraging to truly think about whether or not RV travel is for our family. I enjoyed it and I had fun, but I don't know if the whole family enjoyed it as much as I did. So we'll see. We still want to take a big trip this summer, but we don't know if it'll be in an RV or if we'll do a train trip or what. We're going to rethink things a little bit. So having gone down to Florida and chatting with Mars and her husband about, so they're both from Jamaica, and we chatted a bunch about the different foods and the herbs and stuff they would use in Jamaica. And one of the things that her husband had from, I think his sister had made it, was this delicious hibiscus drink that she made. So hibiscus is something I've used a lot in herbal medicine. And I thought maybe I should put together a tropical drink for you guys this time for the podcast. So I made something that I'm calling Winter in the Tropics. And I'm going to put in a little video of how I created it, and I hope you guys like it. I think it's really delicious. It's great for the winter because the ginger makes it warming, especially when it's drunk as a hot tea. It has lots of vitamin C, which is good for your immunity. And in the summertime, if it's drunk cold or with ice, it's a much more cooling drink because the hibiscus has a cooling effect. So here's a little video about how I created it, and I hope you like it. Okay, so this tea is pretty simple. There's 3 ingredients. And for 1 cup of tea, you'll use 1 teaspoon of each ingredient. First, we have ginger. It's fresh ginger. You can slice it up, grind it up, however you want. I just like to cut it in little slices. I've got 4 teaspoons here because I'm making 4 cups of tea. And then you've got hibiscus. These are the hibiscus petals of the red hibiscus. Most hibiscus is edible, so check if you have some in your yard to make sure that the variety that you have is edible. You can use the flower petals and the calyx of the red medicinal, and that's what we're using. So 1 teaspoon of that, 1 teaspoon of the ginger, and then I took a lime and I took off the outer rind. And I have this thing right here which helps to, you just run the lime on top of it. If you don't have something like that, it's totally fine to just cut off a piece of the lime rind without getting too much of the inner white, and just chop that up. And you don't need a packed teaspoon, you need a fluffy teaspoon. This is probably, if I packed it down, that'd probably be 1 teaspoon, but I'm counting it as 4 because I'm using it, you know, fluffy. If you feel like you don't get enough lime in the end, this is about 1 lime's worth of rind for my 4 cups. If you feel like you don't have enough in the end, you can always put a little squeeze of lime. So I'm going to put that all in here. I put it in a glass jar so we can see the color as it changes. And then I'm going to pour on 4 cups of water. And we're going to let this steep for 10 minutes. And I would cover it as you let it steep because there's a lot of good essential oils in this ginger and lime that are going to evaporate off, and you want that to stay in. So cover it for 10 minutes and then we'll strain it out and we'll be back. Alright, so it's been 10 minutes. Take my little cover off. Oh, it smells so good. And look at that color. All that beautiful red coming out of that hibiscus. So you know it's high in bioflavonoids if you've got all that color in there. It's also really good in the winter because of all the vitamin C from your lime and your hibiscus. And it's refreshing, it's energizing. The ginger, well, all of it really is great for immunity, so it's nice in the winter. So yeah, we like to have this hot. It smells so good. We like to have this hot in the winter. We also like to have it iced in the summer. It's really nice to put this in with some ice cubes, and I think honey is probably the favorite sweetener around here, but I don't do sugar, so I put in my own stevia mix, but it's beautiful and a really nice winter tea, so I hope you enjoy it. So as far as woolly things, I have one finished object and two works in progress. My first finished object is Unini the Magic Unicorn. And she's adorable. I absolutely love her. I think she came out just like Anna's, and that's exactly what I wanted. I fell in love with it when I saw it. Anna of the Dunkelgrün podcast is the designer of this little unicorn, and she's perfect. She has a little rainbow tail and a rainbow mane, and I know I had asked you guys about the eyes, and unanimously everybody said I should do the green eyes with the yellow polka dots. I even agreed. When I put them on her, it made her look kind of reptilian. It just didn't fit. So I ended up going with the green ones, and I think they worked out perfectly. They're like a green sparkle, which is still magical looking. And I have to tell you about this pattern. So I've knit a few stuffed animals before, but I'm not a huge fan. I don't like things that feel fiddly. I never felt that with this pattern. It went together really well. It went together really quickly, and the pattern is written fabulously. You have all the notes you need to create it exactly as she makes it, to make it look professional. There's even a couple of video tutorials that show you how to attach things the right way, or you know, how it all works, and I loved it. I would highly recommend it. There are a lot of variations that you can create with this pattern too, and I told Anna this, that a couple people guessed I was knitting a seahorse when it was just the top of it. Some people guessed I was knitting a duck. So I think she could really take this pattern and go with it and make lots of things with it. But I'm really excited. This is going to be going to a little baby that I know of, and I think it'll be something that she can love and enjoy for a long time. So that is my finished object. My first work in progress that I'm going to share with you is one that, excuse me, let me grab it. You guys have seen it before, and I thought I might be finished by now, but I ended up doing other knitting on the trip home. Here's the first sock. This is my half object, and this is the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas sock by Danny of Little Bobbins podcast. Her name is Danielle. Well, I don't know if it's Jorge or George. It's Jorge. And this is her first sock pattern. I love it. You can see the Christmas tree, although I totally don't think this has to be a holiday pattern. I'm going to wear them whenever I want, but I really like it. It was really easy to follow. I'm a vanilla sock person, so I don't usually branch out into lacy or patterned socks. I always find that my gauge gets off too much, and I just like the quickness of the vanilla sock. So this really appealed to me, that I could have a pretty little pattern on it while still making a vanilla sock, basically. The only thing that I did differently, and I think you can see it on here, if you look at the trunk, you can see, so this is a slip stitch. And as I was knitting the trunk, it kept pulling to the side. I couldn't get my stitches to lay right. And it's very minor, but the slip stitch made this spot along the trunk where it pulled. So instead, you can kind of see, I'm going to hold it back so it focuses better. Right about here, I'm sorry, it's not a slip stitch, it's a twisted stitch. And the twisted stitch was making one side pull. I couldn't get my gauge to go right there. So instead, I started doing a slip stitch instead of a twisted stitch, and it seemed to work out a little bit better. It's not the pattern, it's totally how I was holding my yarn or how I was pulling it. But it looks the same, it has the same effect of a trunk, but it didn't pull so much to the side. So with the second one, I just did a slip stitch all the way down instead of a twisted stitch. But yeah, I love these. I love the yarn. It is Juliana's fiber. I can't remember the name. It's a sparkly sock yarn, but It fits great, and I think these look like they need to go with a pretty pair of 1940s shoes or something. So, oh, my second one, I am into the foot. So here's the top of it, and the top of it, and then the foot. So it shouldn't take too much longer. Somebody had asked me about these, which are my needle holders. They're called DPN cozies. I don't use DPNs, but I find it really helpful to put the small, especially the smaller needles in here. I'm not so worried about the sock falling off, but it keeps my yarn from getting all tangled up, because sometimes the needles will punch into the yarn ball, or go through the sock, and it just seems to keep things a little more organized. So I get mine from Twist Fiber Studio. There we go. But I know that lots of people sell them. They're DPN cozies, and I think they're fun. They're useful. So that is my first work in progress. My second work in progress is something I just cast on yesterday, and I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy. This is kind of the season of the sweaters, but I cast on another Fern Feather. Look at that. It's a beautiful cherry red with a gray contrast color. And this is Briggs & Little yarn. I've never used this before. I was looking for a nice farm yarn kind of yarn and came up with this one. It's a Canadian yarn that I hear is pretty common in Canada, but you can't find it around here too much. But yeah, I like it. I love how it feels. It's knitting up great. I'm doing the same thing I did with the last one because I want it to be a bulky sweater. I want it to be a big sweater. I'm knitting it 2 sizes too big, so that I'll have at least 4 or 5 inches of positive ease. And yeah, so there's that one. This is by Jennifer Steingass, and it's a really popular pattern. I knit the other one for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. There's a bunch of people who are knitting the same thing before we go there, so we can wear them together, but I may have to. I don't know how I'm going to ship, how I'm going to bring everything. If I want to just bring carry-ons, it's going to be stuffed. We'll see. So those are my 2 works in progress. Another finished object that I have is from the Disstaff Day spinning. Last time I'd mentioned that last Sunday, so a week and a day ago, was Disstaff Day. And so we did a little cast on, some people in the Ravelry group and some people on Instagram, to spin together for Disstaff Day. And I put some fiber by Gail's Art on the wheel. It was 85% Polworth and 15% silk. And here it is. I finished it up. That's a little bright. Let's see. I finished it up a couple days ago, I think. And I really like it. The braid came in lots of different separate sections of color, so I split them up and matched the colors together, if that makes sense. There was purple, then light purple, then blue, then green, then more purple, then more green, that kind of thing. So instead of spinning them like that, I pulled the sections apart and put all the colors of the same, put all the same colors in piles so that I can spin them almost like in a rainbow. So let's see if I can get it. I spun the orange, then kind of the yellowy green, then the dark green, and then it went to a blue, then a light purple and a dark purple. And I got 380 yards. It's about a sport weight, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I love it. If you have any ideas for single skeins of hand-spun yarn, or matching it up with a solid color or something like that, let me know. And maybe I can knit something pretty with it. I know it'll be pretty, whatever I knit with it, but yeah. Did you do any spinning on Disstaff Day? If you did, I'd love to see what you spun. It's fun to know that people throughout the world are spinning at the same time. So let's see. Oh, so one thing that is also going on in the Ravelry group is our Colorwork sweater knit along. There's sweaters of all sizes. There's even a doggy sweater. There's even a Colorwork skirt. Lots of people have been submitting finished objects, and though the Colorwork sweater knit along ends officially on January 31st, if you're a fast knitter, there's still time to get a sweater in. So if you want to see all the rules for it and all the amazing prizes that are going into it, head to the Ravelry group. There's gonna be a prize for the chatter thread and a prize for the finished object thread. Finished objects. So the prizes, I'm going to have a picture of that in there so you can see what all the prizes are. But there's been some gorgeous, gorgeous gorgeous projects being shown. So you should go and take a look. Another giveaway that we've had was for the Podiversary, my first year podcast anniversary. And I asked in their last episode if you can tell me something that you crafted this past year that brought you joy, or something that you were planning to do this next year that you were excited about tackling. So there were 106 entries and lots of really interesting things to read in there. So I put numbers 2 through 107 in random.org, and it randomly chose number 107. So the winner is Krusty Cupcake. And she wrote, "Congrats on the Podiversary. I just found you and have spent the afternoon watching your first few episodes. Fun. Thank you. Goals for 2018. Sweater for me. I've knit a lot for other people, socks, sweaters, hats, but not a whole lot for me. So this year I'm going to be a selfish knitter and make myself something lovely." That sounds really good. I say go for it for selfish knitting. We knit lots for other people. It's nice to knit something for yourself. So let me show you what you've won, Krusty Cupcake, and if you will get in touch with me through Ravelry and send me your address, I will get these off to you. There is first this lovely lavender sachet with a naturally dyed lace by Buckaloo View, Lisa of Buckaloo View. Some lovely handmade note cards, and some beautiful yarn by the Yarn and I, Cappy from the Yarn and I, and she has the Yarn and I podcast and does some beautiful dyeing. So congratulations. And thank you everyone for entering. I appreciate it. So let's see, I just have some announcements to make and a little administrative stuff that I wanted to tell you about. The first thing is that I did release my 2 hat patterns, Taking Root and Hearth and Snow, this past week. And for you, my podcast viewers, I want to give you a 50% off code. The coupon code on Ravelry is HATLOVE, all capitals. And if you are interested in trying one of those hats out, you can get 50% off the pattern. I really hope you like them. They're squishy and fun to knit. One's a worsted weight, one is a bulky weight, and they're both really quick, I think, pretty quick patterns to knit, so I hope you enjoy those. I do have one acquisition that I wanted to tell you about. I have been in the past chatting with a woman named Hannah from Australia, who, when I was talking a few episodes back about dyeing with eucalyptus, she contacted me and told me that she has 10 varieties of eucalyptus on her land and does a lot of experimenting with the different dye colors she can get from them, and she sent me some yarn that she dyed with the eucalyptus. So I just wanted to show you this because I thought it was really cool that you can get so many different variations out of one plant. These are all dyed with eucalyptus. So let's see, there we go. So this one is candlebark eucalyptus. This one is long-leaved peppermint, which is almost like a greenish color. This bright orange comes from the brittle gum eucalyptus, and this one is the apple box. Aren't those gorgeous? So she has 10 different varieties on her property that she can experiment with, and she sent me these to show me the different kinds of eucalyptus. So thank you, Hannah, so much. I appreciate it. She also sent some Australian tea and some Australian chocolate, and my kids have not gotten the chocolate yet. It's a Cadbury chocolate, but each one has a specific Australian animal on it. So in order for the kids to earn this chocolate, they're going to have to look up the animal and tell me a little bit about them because they're animals that generally we don't find in the States, like the numbat. I've never heard of it before, but how fun is that? So I just wanted to share those with you. The fun colors. I never know what I'm going to get. I use the same kind of eucalyptus all the time. And it seems like just depending on the water quality and the heat and all of that, sometimes I'll get bright oranges, sometimes I'll get yellows, sometimes it'll be pale, sometimes dark. So yeah, eucalyptus is kind of, it reminds me of madder root in that it can be very finicky to get the exact color you want, but you can also create so many varieties of color with just the one plant. So I am going to be having a sock blank release in my Etsy store this coming Wednesday, which is the 17th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have, I think, about 20 blanks to put in the store, and then I need to get back in the dye pots. It's just been so cold. I don't want to do any dyeing outside, so I'll need to do it in my kitchen. I did harvest and save a lot of plants from this summer and the fall, so I'll have lots of dye material to work with, but I'll have to plan a day when no one else is in the house because I take up the whole floor if I have to dye inside. But I'm also thinking, so many of you have mentioned that you love how they look, but you don't want to knit with them because you don't want to destroy the picture. So I was thinking of actually doing some 8x11 cotton paper and doing some prints on those. And that way it's something you can actually frame if you wanted it and use your sock blank if you want to. So we'll see. I may do a few of those too in this next dye round. A couple of announcements that I have that are super fun and I'm excited to share with you. One is, you guys know I'm going to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I've been planning that for the last few months and can't wait. It's less than 2 months away. But I got accepted to be a part of the Edinburgh Yarn Festival Podcaster Lounge, which is amazing. If you're planning on going to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival and you haven't seen the lineup of who's going to be there, you should go and look who's going to be in the Podcaster Lounge. So many people that I've been wanting to meet since I started watching podcasts are going to be there. Some amazing people, and I'm really excited about it. My understanding is it's open the whole time the festival is open, and I guess podcasters will choose to be there at certain times. More information is going to come out when it's closer to the date, but for now, I'm just super excited to tell you about that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm very honored to have been chosen to be one of the podcasters there. The Podcaster Lounge is put on by Micah and Joe of the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, as well as Louise of Knit British and the Knit British podcast. And they've been doing it, I know they did it last year. I don't know if they've done it all the years before, but they've gotten a bigger venue and more space so that even more people can come and enjoy and have a place to hang out and meet the podcasters when they're not in the festival and squishing all the yarn. And it's sponsored by Lacquer Yarn, which is a British yarn company that specializes in wool from the British Isles and the Falkland Isles, I believe. There may be more now, but basically they support local farmers in their area, and I think that's amazing. And I've been wanting to try some of their yarns, even though I'm not local. I want to support them because of what they're doing. And they have a bunch of different varieties, from different breed-specific ones to some mixes, and they seem like a really good company. So I actually have some on order. I think the only place in the States that you can get it is the Woolly Thistle. So I've ordered some from her because I want to knit these. They're the Moonlight Traveler mittens by Nina Pomerantz, and it's a new pattern, but I absolutely love it. There's a moth. Can you see the moth and the crescent moon? And I love the wrist. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm waiting on my yarn so I can start those. But Lacquer Yarn started today, I believe, a knit-along in building up to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, but you don't have to go there to participate and win prizes. So if you've been interested in trying the Lacquer Yarn yarns, then now would be a fun time to do it. They've got everything listed in their Ravelry group, so you can go and check it out and see what the knit-along is about. But I'm definitely going to join in because I've been wanting to knit those mitts with the Lacquer Yarn. So yes, really excited, lots of fun. The other announcement that I have for you that I'm really excited about is that I wrote a poem a few years ago for Leaf, who's now 8. He's going to be 9 next month, and I wrote a poem for him inspired by a dream that he had about giants in the clouds. And I really liked the poem. You know, sometimes you write things and you're like, eh. This one I thought, wow, I kind of like that. That has a good flow. And I thought about making it into a book, but I just didn't know how I could see these pictures exactly how I wanted it to look for this children's book. But I'm not an artist and I couldn't draw the pictures. So I approached Giada Rose of Rose Witchery, who I've spoken about a bunch on here because you know I love her and I love her artwork. And I said, what do you think about doing a children's book? And she said yes. And I'm so excited. For the past few months, I need to find another adjective for excited because I say that a lot on the podcast, but I guess I'm just excited. For the past few months, we've been working on this book and it's so close. We're just working on the last little tweaks to make sure it's perfect, to make sure there's no punctuation problems or that I've spelled something wrong. And the pictures are amazing. What she's drawn to put in here just captures it perfectly, and I can't wait for you guys to see this. But we're going to send it off to the publisher soon and hopefully have it out in February in time for Leaf's birthday, because I'd like to give him one for his birthday. So it's going to be called Giants in the Clouds, and it's a picture book for kids, but I think anybody would enjoy it. It's going to be a hardback book with full color all the way through so that you can really, really enjoy those pictures. So anyway, that is the last of my announcements. I think that's it. It's been busy and I've been up to a lot, but it's been a lot of fun. So I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I hope that if you're in a cold area, you're sitting by a warm fire and enjoying your knitting. I hope that if you're in a warm area, you're out somewhere enjoying the sun or the waves or something. And I hope you're having a good couple of next couple of weeks. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. If that mockingbird won't sing, Papa's in a you and I'm in